Good evening, my weary academics, and welcome to History to Sleep By, where we nerd out and conk out. If you enjoy calm, narrated history documentaries, or just need a reliable friend to help with restless nights, please subscribe, leave a like, and maybe share a comment about what's happening in your life. That way, you'll always find your way back to us. Now, let's begin tonight's journey. In the summer of 1777, the British campaign in the American Revolutionary War sought to gain control over the Hudson River Valley. General John Burgoyne, leading the British forces, faced a pressing need for supplies. His army, advancing from Canada, was stretched thin and required provisions to sustain its momentum. Burgoyne decided to send a detachment to raid the American supply depot at Bennington, Vermont. This decision was driven by the hope of acquiring horses, carts, and other necessities that would bolster his campaign. Lieutenant Colonel Friedrich Baum was chosen to lead this foraging expedition. His force was a diverse mix, comprising Brunswick dragoons, loyalists, and indigenous auxiliaries. Baum's orders were to seize the supplies and return swiftly. However, the task was more challenging than anticipated. The terrain near Walloomsac, New York, where the battle would unfold, was rugged and unfamiliar to Baum's troops. To complicate matters further, the Americans were aware of the British movements. General John Stark, commanding the American militia, quickly mobilized his forces. Stark was a seasoned leader, and his men were eager to defend their territory. Reinforcements under Colonel Seth Warner, including the renowned Green Mountain Boys, joined Stark. Together, they prepared to confront Baum's detachment. The Americans were determined to protect their supplies and disrupt Burgoyne's plans. As Baum's forces approached, they constructed defensive works near the Walloomsac River. Redoubts and breastworks were erected to fortify their position. The British hoped these defenses would hold against any American attack. However, nature intervened. On August 15th, heavy rain swept through the area, delaying any immediate action. The rain-soaked ground added to the challenges faced by both sides. On August 16th, the skies cleared, and the Americans were ready to strike. Stark devised a plan to envelop Baum's position. His militia advanced in a series of coordinated assaults. The Americans moved with determination, their numbers and resolve overwhelming the British defenses. Baum's men resisted fiercely, but the American militia's relentless pressure proved too much. During the intense fighting, Baum was mortally wounded. His troops, leaderless and outmatched, began to falter. The Americans captured the British positions, securing a significant victory. However, the battle was not yet over. In the afternoon, Lieutenant Colonel Heinrich von Breyman arrived with reinforcements to support Baum. Breyman launched a counterattack, hoping to reclaim the lost ground. The Americans, though weary, stood firm. Colonel Seth Warner and his Green Mountain Boys played a crucial role in repelling Breyman's assault. The American militia, buoyed by their earlier success, fought with renewed vigor. Breyman's forces, unable to break through, eventually withdrew. The British suffered heavy casualties, and many were taken prisoner. The victory at Bennington was significant for the Americans. They captured valuable material, including horses, carts, arms, and supplies. These gains bolstered the American war effort and dealt a severe blow to Burgoyne's campaign. The loss of men and resources weakened Burgoyne's column, reducing its mobility and manpower. This setback would have lasting implications as the British advanced toward Saratoga. The Battle of Bennington was more than just a tactical victory. It was a testament to the resilience and determination of the American militia. The triumph lifted the spirits of the American forces and contributed to the eventual success at Saratoga. For Burgoyne, the defeat underscored the challenges of waging war in a foreign land, where the terrain and the people were formidable adversaries. As the sun set on the battlefield, the echoes of the day's conflict faded into the evening air. The Americans, weary but victorious, gathered to reflect on their achievement. The British, on the other hand, faced the grim reality of their losses. The Battle of Bennington had altered the course of the campaign, setting the stage for the pivotal events that would follow. Tonight, as you drift into slumber, let the story of Bennington remind you of the power of resilience and unity. In the face of adversity, the American militia stood firm, and their courage became a beacon of hope. May this tale of determination and triumph guide you into a restful night, where dreams of history's heroes inspire and soothe. As the night deepened, the stars emerged, casting a gentle glow over the quiet fields where the battle had raged. The air was cool, carrying with it the scent of earth and grass, mingled with the faint traces of gunpowder. In the American camp, the soldiers gathered around small fires, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing stories of the day and of home, their voices a comforting murmur against the backdrop of the night. The victory at Bennington had lifted their spirits, infusing them with a renewed sense of purpose. Many of these men were farmers, accustomed to the rhythms of the land, now turned soldiers by the call of their fledgling nation. They were united by a common cause, driven by the belief that their struggle would pave the way for a new beginning. As they sat together, the bonds of camaraderie grew stronger, each man drawing strength from the presence of his fellow patriots. Across the field, the British and their Hessian allies tended to their wounded and counted their losses. The defeat weighed heavily on them, a stark reminder of the challenges they faced in this unfamiliar land. The terrain had proven treacherous, the dense forests and rolling hills concealing the movements of the American militia. The locals, too, had been less than welcoming, their loyalty lying firmly with the cause of independence. For the British, the road ahead promised no easy victories, only the relentless march of a campaign that seemed to stretch endlessly before them. Yet, even in the face of adversity, there was a quiet dignity in the way they carried themselves. The officers moved among their men, offering words of encouragement and reassurance. They knew the importance of maintaining morale, of keeping the spirit of their troops alive in the face of setbacks. The night was long, but it offered a chance for reflection, for the gathering of resolve that would be needed in the days to come. As the hours passed, the fires burned low, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. The soldiers, both American and British, gradually succumbed to exhaustion, their bodies seeking rest after the day's exertions. The land, scarred by the violence of battle, began to reclaim its peace, the sounds of the night weaving a soothing lullaby that enveloped the weary combatants. In the quiet moments before dawn, a gentle mist settled over the fields, softening the harsh edges of the landscape. It was a time of stillness, a brief respite before the world would awaken once more to the challenges of war. The soldiers, wrapped in their blankets, dreamed of home, of loved ones waiting in distant places. Their dreams were filled with images of fields and forests, of the familiar comforts that lay beyond the horizon. As the first light of day began to creep over the hills, the camp stirred to life. The soldiers rose, their movements slow and deliberate, as they prepared to face whatever the new day might bring. The victory at Bennington had been a turning point, a moment of triumph that would echo through the annals of history. But for those who had fought, it was also a reminder of the fragility of peace, of the constant vigilance required to protect the freedoms they held dear. The sun climbed higher, its rays piercing through the lingering mist, revealing the scars of battle etched into the earth. Yet, amidst the remnants of conflict, there was a sense of renewal, a promise of hope carried on the morning breeze. The soldiers, both American and British, knew that the journey was far from over, that the path to peace would be long and arduous. But they also knew that they were part of something greater, a story that would unfold through the ages, shaped by their courage and sacrifice. As the day unfolded, the soldiers went about their duties, their minds already turning to the challenges that lay ahead. The campaign would continue, each battle a step along the road to an uncertain future. But in the quiet moments when the world paused and the weight of history seemed to lift, they found solace in the knowledge that they were part of a grand narrative, one that would endure long after the echoes of their footsteps had faded. In the heart of the American wilderness, beneath the vast expanse of sky, the soldiers carried with them the hopes and dreams of a nation. Their journey was a testament to the power of resilience, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the light of determination could guide them forward. As the sun set once more on the fields of Bennington, the story of their struggle continued, a timeless tale of courage and unity that would inspire generations to come. As twilight descended upon the fields of Bennington, the soldiers gathered around small fires, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. The air was filled with the soft murmur of voices, a gentle hum that blended with the rustling leaves and the distant call of night creatures. Each man, weary from the day's exertions, found comfort in the camaraderie that surrounded him. They were bound together not only by the trials of battle, but by a shared belief in the cause that had brought them to this place. The stories they told were of home and hearth, of loved ones waiting patiently across the ocean or in distant colonies. These tales were woven with threads of longing and hope, each one a reminder of the life they had left behind. The soldiers spoke of fields and farms, of bustling towns and quiet villages. In these moments, the harsh realities of war seemed to fade, replaced by the warmth of memory and the promise of return. As the night deepened, the stars emerged, scattered like diamonds across the velvet sky. The soldiers looked up, finding solace in the constellations that had guided travelers for centuries. The vastness of the universe seemed to diminish their struggles, placing their journey within the grand tapestry of time. It was a humbling reminder of their place in the world, a world that had seen countless battles and yet continued to turn. In the quiet of the night, some soldiers turned to their journals, capturing their thoughts with ink and paper. These written words, though simple, held the weight of history. They chronicled not only the events of the day, but also the emotions that coursed through the ranks. Fear, courage, doubt, and determination all found their place on the pages, creating a mosaic of human experience that would resonate with future generations. The gentle crackle of the fire provided a soothing rhythm, a backdrop to the reflections of those who sat around it. The soldiers knew that with the dawn, the campaign would resume, and the uncertainty of the future would once again loom large. Yet in these precious hours, they allowed themselves to dream of peace. They imagined a world where the echoes of gunfire were replaced by the laughter of children, where the scars of conflict healed beneath the gentle touch of time. The officers, too, found a moment of respite in the quiet night. They gathered in small groups, discussing strategies and sharing insights. Their conversations were marked by a quiet determination, an unwavering resolve to see the campaign through to its conclusion. They understood that their decisions carried weight, that each choice could alter the course of history. Yet, they also knew that they were not alone, that they were part of a collective effort that transcended individual ambition. As the fires burned low, the soldiers began to drift into sleep, their dreams mingling with the whispers of the night. The land around them, once a battleground, now cradled them in its embrace, offering a fleeting sanctuary from the trials of war. The night was a gentle guardian, wrapping them in a cloak of stars and shadows, allowing them to rest and gather strength for the challenges ahead. In the stillness, the landscape seemed to breathe, a living entity that had witnessed the passage of time. The trees stood as silent sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The earth beneath the soldiers' feet held the stories of those who had come before, a silent testament to the enduring spirit of those who dared to dream of a better world. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the soldiers stirred, roused from their slumber by the promise of a new day. The fires, now reduced to glowing embers, flickered one last time before surrendering to the morning light. The air was crisp and cool, carrying with it the scent of dew-kissed grass and the promise of possibility. The soldiers rose, shaking off the remnants of sleep, their minds turning once more to the task at hand. They gathered their belongings, preparing to continue their journey, each step a testament to their resolve. The night had offered them a brief reprieve, a moment to reflect and renew. Now, with the rising sun casting its golden light upon the fields of Bennington, they moved forward, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of a nation determined to see their story through to its end. As the soldiers began their march, the landscape around them slowly came to life. Birds chirped in the trees, their songs weaving through the air like a gentle melody. The soldiers' boots crunched on the gravel path, a rhythmic accompaniment to the symphony of morning sounds. Each step was deliberate, each movement purposeful, as they advanced toward their destination. The field stretched out before them, a patchwork of green and gold, glistening under the sun's warm embrace. The men were a diverse group, drawn from different walks of life, yet united by a common cause. Farmers, blacksmiths, and tradesmen, they had left their homes and families to fight for a future they believed in. Their faces bore the marks of hardship, etched by the trials of war, yet their eyes shone with determination. Among them walked a young drummer boy, his drumsticks tapping against the taut skin of his instrument, keeping time with the steady march. His youthful enthusiasm was infectious, a reminder of the innocence that still lingered amidst the chaos of conflict. As they moved, the soldiers exchanged quiet words, sharing stories of home and dreams of peace. The camaraderie among them was palpable, forged in the crucible of shared struggle. They spoke of loved ones waiting for their return, of fields that needed tending and children who needed teaching. These conversations, though brief, offered solace and strength, a reminder of what they fought for. The road ahead was long, winding through hills and valleys, each turn bringing them closer to the battle that awaited. But for now, the journey was peaceful, the air filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers. The sun climbed higher in the sky, its rays casting playful shadows on the ground. The soldiers paused occasionally to rest, taking sips from canteens and sharing morsels of bread. These moments of respite were cherished, a chance to gather strength for the challenges that lay ahead. As the day wore on, the landscape began to change. The fields gave way to dense forests, the trees standing tall and proud, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. The path narrowed, forcing the soldiers to walk in single file, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. The forest was alive with the sounds of nature, the rustle of leaves, and the distant call of a hawk soaring high above. In this serene setting, the soldiers found a moment of tranquility, a brief escape from the harsh realities of war. The forest enveloped them in its embrace, offering a sense of protection and peace. Yet even in this idyllic scene, the weight of their mission loomed large, a constant reminder of the duty that called them forward. As they emerged from the woods, the landscape opened up once more, revealing a wide expanse of rolling hills. In the distance, the faint outline of a village could be seen, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, a sign of life and warmth. The sight spurred the soldiers on, their pace quickening as they drew nearer to their destination. The village, with its thatched roofs and cobblestone streets, seemed untouched by the ravages of war. Children played in the streets, their laughter ringing out like a joyful chorus. The sight brought smiles to the soldiers' faces, a reminder of the innocence they sought to protect. As they passed through the village, the townsfolk greeted them with nods and words of encouragement, their support a balm to weary spirits. With renewed vigor, the soldiers pressed on, leaving the village behind. The road stretched out before them, a ribbon of possibility leading to an uncertain future. Yet, despite the unknowns that lay ahead, they marched with purpose, driven by a shared belief in the cause they served. The sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the land, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. As dusk approached, the soldiers found a suitable spot to make camp, a clearing nestled between two gentle hills. They set to work, pitching tents and gathering firewood, their movements efficient and practiced. The fires were soon lit, their flames dancing in the twilight, casting a warm glow over the encampment. The scent of cooking filled the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of the land. Gathered around the fires, the soldiers shared a simple meal, their voices mingling with the crackle of burning wood. Stories were told, laughter shared, and for a brief moment, the burdens of war were set aside. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the soldiers settled into their makeshift beds, the ground firm yet comforting beneath them. Sleep came slowly, the mind reluctant to let go of the day's events. But eventually, the gentle lullaby of the night took hold, wrapping the soldiers in its embrace. The fires burned low, their embers glowing softly in the darkness, a beacon of hope and resilience. And as the night deepened, the soldiers dreamed of a future where peace reigned, a world where their sacrifices would not be in vain.